Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for...
It's the Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy's Sports Ticket, 1430 AM and 99.5 HD2.
What's going on? It's the Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy's Sports Ticket. Thanks for tuning in, no matter how you're tuning in. Hopefully you had a great start to your week. Got a great week ahead. Sports are back, baby. You're like, Jonathan, what are you talking about? We've had NFL football and college football. Yes. But we got the World Series going right now. Hockey back in full swing. I'm really trying to get into hockey. So if you have any suggestions on how to do that, send them my way. I know my wife's super excited hearing me saying that. She's probably like, Jonathan, we watch enough sports in the house already. We don't need any more. I'm like, yes, we do, because sports are great. The NBA, that starts back tonight as well. Whether you like LeBron James, whether you don't like the fact that Bronny James is in the league or not, they're going to play together tonight, and it's going to be really cool. And so I'm definitely going to stay up to watch that. It's going to be incredible. But let's be honest, you don't want to hear me talk about the Lakers. You want to hear me talk about not the Lakers. You want to hear me talk about things that are local. So with that being said, I'm going to tell you about my Division II baseball career. Seriously though, I played for the new listeners out there. Thank you for listening, for one. Secondly, I played Division II college baseball, and while I was there, no one knows anything about Division II athletics, because let's be honest, unless you have a kid or someone that you know playing on some sort of Division II roster at any level, you just don't care about it, which I totally understand. And I was completely clueless when I showed up. I learned a lot in the first week just about roster construction at the Division II level, because it's really interesting. When I first got to college, the old transfer rule was still in place, where if you transferred, you had to sit out a year unless you transferred down a level. Okay, so if you transferred from Indiana to UIndy, then you could play immediately. Whereas if you transferred from Indiana to Purdue, you had to sit out a year. Okay, this seems like this happened for forever ago, but it was really only 6 years ago that rule was changed. And so because of that, Division II rosters, at least the one that I played on, was just really interesting, because you had former Division I guys playing now at the Division II level. That was a normal thing. We had transfers from Wichita State and Arkansas State and the University of Arkansas. And we had a bunch of guys that transferred down because they couldn't hack it at the Division I level. So they transferred down so that they could play immediately, right? And then obviously you've got guys that went to your school straight out of high school, which was an interesting thing. And some of those guys could have gone Division I, but they got offered more money to go Division II. And then you had some other guys that weren't very good, but they had a ton of potential, and Division II was really their only offer. And then you had other guys who walked on just because they loved the game of baseball. So from a talent perspective, Division II rosters can be incredibly intriguing, like the one that I played on. And when I think about my teammates, there are certain guys that I'll never forget because they were uber talented. One of my buddies, Spencer Tack, 6'4", sitting 94, nasty splitter and slider, got drafted. I'll never forget playing with that guy, because he was not only a beast, but he's also one of the nicest people I've ever met. Okay, there's another guy named Danny Mitchell who I'll never forget playing with, because he was a transfer from a Division I school. He transferred down and was just a stud. Tracked everything down in the outfield, could hit, stole bases. He was great. And then there were two other players that I'll never forget playing with. One was named Jackson Murphy. The other guy was named Charles. I do not remember his last name. I just remember that we'd call him Chuck, and he did not like that. They both went Division II out of high school. Okay, so my buddy Jackson transferred in from a school in our conference, right, to Henderson State, where I played. And the other guy, Charles, he committed straight out of high school. He showed up. He was a freshman my sophomore year. So, and they were the exact same. They were both 6'4", incredibly strong, ton of pop in their bats. They were athletic. They could move. They both played tight end when they were in high school and had football offers, but decided to play baseball. The issue with both of them was the same. They couldn't hit for contact. They had all this power, like triple-digit exit velos, just hitting the cover off the ball. But just their ability to hit for contact lacked. And I remember watching Jackson Murphy work just incredibly hard to become a good hitter. And it just never happened for him. I felt bad because he was one of the nicest guys that you'll ever meet. Just a super good dude, a great teammate who was always positive, even though he didn't get to play a ton. And then there was Charles, who was the exact same type of player, big, donkey, could hit the ball a mile. But he did figure out how to hit for contact. He did figure out how to be more consistent. And he ended up being an absolute beast after I graduated. Why am I telling you this? Jonathan, why are you telling us about, your time at Henderson State University, a Division II school in Arkadelphia, Arkansas that I really don't care about? Why are you telling me about this? I'm telling you about this because this is another Anthony Richardson segment. What a surprise. Charles showed up at Henderson, and I had seen grade schoolers with a better swing than him. Seriously, I helped at our summer camp at Henderson, and they're like 8-year-olds with better looking swings than this Charles guy coming out of high school. His form was terrible. He was out on his front foot. He was lunging at pitches. It was bad. But as our coaches spent time with him and helped fix his swing, he became a good hitter. And I am of the belief that if you can teach a guy how to hit a baseball, the hardest thing to do in sports, okay, like there's really good arms at the Division II level. Guys throwing 92, 93, 3-pitch mix, okay? Like there's really good arms. If you can teach a guy how to hit a baseball at the Division II level, then I believe that you can teach a guy how to be accurate throwing the football. Okay, another reason why I believe in this whole development of accuracy thing is because I've seen NFL quarterbacks become more accurate. Okay, the people who say that quarterbacks can't become more accurate are dumb, and they don't know what they're talking about. Okay, they never coached, they never played in any sort of college or professional environment. They weren't around guys that came in with a lot of potential and saw them develop. I've seen guys come in with a lot of potential and get better. It happens all the time. You can teach a guy how to be more accurate throwing the football. Okay? Simple as that. And I've got numbers to prove it. You think I make a claim without any sort of way to back it up? Come on now. Let's start with Josh Allen. And as soon as I bring up Josh Allen, everyone's like, oh my gosh, he's the exception, not the rule, Jonathan. Move on. Not yet. Give me 1 second. Josh Allen's rookie season, he played 12 games, started in 11 of them. That season, he threw for just over 2,000 yards. He threw 10 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, and he only completed 52% of his passes. That is bad. Okay? That is not good at all. His second year, Josh Allen started all 16 games. He threw for just over 3,000 yards, 20 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, and he completed 59% of his passes. His third year on, he's been one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. As of right now, he's the second best. I know people love Lamar Jackson. They saw what he did last night. I love Lamar Jackson. I'm about to talk about him here in a second. He's not better than Josh Allen. From Josh Allen's third year on, he's completed no less than 63% of his passes. He's thrown for no less than 4,000 yards, and he's thrown at least 29 touchdowns every year. I think it's safe to say he got better. I think it's safe to say that he became more accurate the more reps that he got. Oh, but Jonathan, that's just one example. He's the exception, not the rule. So glad you said that. Stay tuned, buddy, because I've got more coming your way. Speaking of Lamar Jackson, okay, 2-time MVP. He was a unanimous MVP one of those times, and he's currently playing the best football of his career. Do you remember when Lamar Jackson came out of college? He refused to run the 40-yard dash at the NFL Draft Combine because people thought he should play wide receiver. And he didn't run the 40 because he wanted to prove a point of, I'm not a wide receiver, I'm a quarterback. So the Ravens draft him with the last pick of the first round. Lamar Jackson, his rookie year, Started 7 games. He only completed 58% of his passes. He appeared in all 16 games, but only started 7 of them. He only threw 3 touchdowns. He barely threw for 1,000 yards and around 150 passing attempts. Okay, he relied on his legs more than his arm, both his rookie year and his second year. Okay, speaking of Lamar Jackson's second year, he became electric. He threw for over 3,000 yards. He threw 36 touchdowns and only 6 interceptions. And part of that was because the only time he threw the ball is when guys were wide open. From that point forward, Lamar Jackson's second year on, all of the people who said that he should be a wide receiver stopped talking and accepted Lamar Jackson as a quarterback. It just took Lamar some time to figure things out, and thankfully his running ability allowed him to be sustainable as a starting quarterback. He just needed live reps to figure out how to play quarterback in the NFL. And now he's one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL after becoming more accurate. He went from completing 58% of his passes his rookie year to over 60% from that point forward. And right now, I believe he's completing around 66%. Lamar Jackson not only got better, but he became more accurate. Here's another guy for you. Jalen Hurts, same thing. His rookie year, he only completed 52% of his passes. His second year, he completed 61%. From year 3 on, he's been at 65% or better. He's improved. He's gotten more accurate. He's gotten better. He just needed the reps to make it happen. Peyton Manning's rookie year, he only completed 58% of his passes. Years 2 through 4, he only completed 62%. Year 5 and on, he went to another level, 65% and up. Okay, so guess what that means? Peyton Manning's accuracy got better over the course of his time in the NFL. Let's go back a little further. John Elway, rookie year, only completed 48% of his passes. Year 2, he jumped to 56%, which was pretty good at that time. He got more accurate. In Steve McNair's first full year as a starter, he completed 52% of his passes. The next year, his completion percentage jumped to 58%. He got more accurate. It is normal for quarterbacks in the NFL to show up and struggle with accuracy and struggle with completing passes. It is a normal thing. In fact, that is a common thing in the NFL. And guess what? With the more reps that these guys get playing the position, the more accurate they become. And part of it is an accuracy thing, but the other part of it is figuring out how to read defenses and knowing who's open. Anthony Richardson needs to be given time. If you're baking a pie and you grab the best ingredients in the world, it doesn't matter if you pull the pie out of the oven too early. It's not going to be very good. Doesn't matter how good the ingredients are. If you pull it out too early, it's not going to taste good. Okay? On the other hand, if you bake a pie, there's a chance that the ingredients that you put in the pie are terrible. And that's a possibility with Anthony Richardson. There's a world where he's awful. There is. But we'll never know if the ingredients that Anthony Richardson has are worth anything if we don't give him time to bake. Anthony Richardson needs time. It is a consistent thing throughout the course of NFL history for quarterbacks to get drafted and get better over time, to get better with reps. Okay, and to rule that possibility out for Anthony Richardson entirely is ignorant. Okay, because we've seen a pattern of it throughout the history of the NFL. Guys like Patrick Mahomes are anomalies. Guys don't show up and just dominate from the jump. It doesn't happen very often. Okay, Anthony Richardson needs time. He's going to get better because it is rare for NFL players to show up and play and just not get any better whatsoever. Okay. Now, if you want to say, Jonathan, you're right. He could get better, but I don't think he's going to progress to a point where he can't be a franchise, where he can be a franchise quarterback. Okay, fine. But we don't know that. As of right now, we are 9 games into the Anthony Richardson experiment. He's completing 54% of his passes. That's better than Josh Allen was at this point. But to be fair, though, it's not good. 54% isn't good at all. But in the early parts of the careers of all the quarterbacks that I just listed, None of them were very good at this point either. A lot of quarterbacks, 9 games into their career, aren't very good. That's why teams with rookie quarterbacks usually don't make the playoffs. Okay? And guess what? None of the quarterbacks that I just mentioned, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Peyton Manning, Steve McNair, Jalen Hurts, all those guys, none of them got better by sitting and watching. They all got better by getting reps. If Anthony Richardson looks like this in 10 to 15 games, then I will listen to all the criticism in the world of him. And honestly, I'll be criticizing him as well. As of right now, though, he needs all the reps that he can get. So the people out there who think that Joe Flacco should play on Sunday because the Texans are a good team, you're wrong. And quit suggesting it. If the Colts play Flacco instead of Anthony Richardson on Sunday, do their chances to win go up? Sure, but not by that much. Not by that much. Joe Flacco couldn't beat the Jaguars. I don't really know what else to tell you. I don't think I need to say much more than that. And all it does is delays the inevitable. You have to give Anthony Richardson time. And it sucks, and it's not fun. Okay? It's not. It's not fun watching him complete 54% of his passes. But if next year and the year after he's better and he's completing 64% of his passes and he looks like one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL, then I would say that this rough, last 9 games would be completely and totally worth it. You got to give Anthony Richardson time to develop, and the Colts are going to continue to do that. He's going to be the starter on Sunday. Win, lose, or draw, that is the best thing for the Colts. Simple as that. The best thing for Indiana, and one of the best things for college football right now, is Curt Cignetti. Love him. Everybody does. I'm getting texts from my buddies in the South that are like, Curt Cignetti, man, what's up with this guy? He's awesome, which is honestly incredible. Like, I grew up in the South, and I never knew who Indiana's head football coach was because they were irrelevant. Now I got buddies that are Arkansas and LSU and Tennessee fans texting me about Coach Cignetti. I've got thoughts on him when we come back here in 4 minutes.
Welcome back to The Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket, 1430 AM and 99.5 HD2.
What's going on? Hopefully you're having a nice day. Thanks for tuning in. No matter how you're tuning in, it's always greatly appreciated. Head over to YouTube, Indy Sports Ticket, subscribe, join the live stream, hop in the chat, drop your thoughts on everything that I am saying. Tell me whether or not they make sense. I think they make sense. But hey, Anyway, Curt Cignetti, to the moon, baby. Curt Cignetti is just, the approval rating is incredible. Okay, I like to make lists. Top 10 Tuesday. Going to do that at some point today. Fun List Friday on Fridays. I enjoy making lists. And if I put together a list of things with a high approval rating, I think the list would go puppy videos, free food that's good, Fridays, and then Curt Cignetti. I don't know anyone who cares about college football that isn't just in love with this guy. My dad, who I love dearly, but my dad is an Arkansas Razorback fan. He enjoys college football. My dad called me, and he knew who Curt Cignetti was. Okay? My dad has never cared about Indiana football a day in his life. I've got buddies texting me about Curt Cignetti who have never cared about Indiana football a day in their life. Never in my life have I known SEC fans that were aware of who the head coach at Indiana was. Indiana is currently one of the 4 golden children of college football. Okay, it's Indiana, it's Vanderbilt, Army, and Navy. The entire country is pulling for all 4 of those teams. Okay, and of those 4, Indiana looks like they're the best. Okay, Army and Navy, a lot of fun to watch. Vanderbilt, a lot of fun to watch. But come on now, Indiana better than all 4 of them, or all 3 of them, if you ask me. And I was going through the audio because I like listening to Curt Cignetti talk. Just because I think he says really smart things, and so I was working through the press conference after their win over Nebraska. Just very curious what he would say because it was a big win. There was a lot of extra things going on with Fox's, college football show being there in Bloomington. Cignetti did a bunch of different interviews. It was just interesting. And Coach Cignetti was asked about all these distractions and how he was able to keep his team focused heading into that game. And here's what Indiana football head coach Curt Cignetti had to say about it.
Well, it's a veteran team with the right kind of guys, got a good staff, and it all starts at the top. I'm not going to let them get complacent, or the coaches either, and I was a maniac in the fourth quarter of this game, a maniac. But we responded. It was a tight game, like I said, and then we broke it open with some key plays. Some of those back shoulder catches got us going, and we hit a couple runs, and they couldn't answer the bell in the second. They took it down the field, had a chance really to, make it a game, and Asbury made that big play. I think it was 4th and 8 when he made that big play. So it says a lot about the character on this football team. We got a lot of experience on this football team, and enjoy it tonight. But we're the same guys that we were this morning when we woke up, right? We just kind of overcame another challenge.
Indiana football coach Curt Cignetti right there talking about how he was able to keep his team, from being distracted about everything going on. And he talked about accountability in that statement. Accountability is interesting. It's something that every coach talks about, something players talk about. It's clearly something important. And there's usually, when coaches answer this question, they talk a lot about the players. We got to hold these guys accountable and all this stuff. I love how Curt Cignetti mentioned not only keeping his players accountable and, to keep them from getting, complacent with where they were at 6-0. Everyone's been, loving up on IU here lately. But he also talked about holding his coaches to that standard as well, holding them accountable, keeping them with their foot on the pedal. That's where it all starts. Okay, if you can hold your players accountable, yes, they'll get better. But here's just the truth of the matter. Coach Cignetti's got like 100 guys in that locker room. He's got a bunch of guys. Those position coaches and the offensive coordinator and the defensive coordinator, they interact with the players way more than what Coach Cignetti does, just because like they're in meetings with those guys. Okay, so the fact that Coach Cignetti talked about holding those assistants accountable, I really like that, because those are the guys that really hold the players accountable. I love that he brought that up. I think that is a huge part of why Indiana is such a good football team. Okay, they're disciplined, and yeah, when you hold players accountable, they're going to get better. When I look at my short playing career, like I know that was the case for me. Like I had coaches, high school through college, that held me accountable, and because of that, I got better in my very short broadcasting career, something I've been doing for like 3 years now. I've got a boss that holds me accountable. Okay, like I know that on Wednesdays after, at 3:15, I have to walk into his office and he's going to ask me how my shows are going, how I'm getting better. Am I implementing these different strategies that he and I had talked about previously? Holding people accountable usually leads to improvement. And it's incredible. And like Coach Cignetti, not only holding his players accountable, but also holding his coaches accountable, leads to the players being more prepared. Okay, it all starts up top at every level, right? Like for NFL teams, it starts with the owner. Same thing with NBA teams and Major League Baseball teams. College football, college basketball, same thing, except it starts with the head coach. Nick Saban won everywhere in college, no matter who his assistants were, because of his ability to hold his assistants accountable, no matter who they were. He talked about that on College Game Day when he was asked about Alabama and their struggles. Urban Meyer, the same way. Kirby Smart has won at Georgia despite having coaches leave. Good head coaches win because they're able to hold their staff and their players accountable. And when thinking about this and thinking about Coach Cignetti, I got to be honest, Coach Cignetti showing up at Indiana might have been one of the worst things for Mike Woodson, because people are going to sit back and they're going to hear everything that Cignetti says, and they're going to see everything that he does, and then they're going to look at Mike Woodson and be like, I don't think he's doing all the same things that Coach Cignetti is doing. Okay, and I got to be honest, like I hope that Mike Woodson is holding his players and coaches accountable the same way that Coach Cignetti is, because that is a large part of why this Indiana football team is so good. I don't want to steal Dan's thunder. The Dan Dockett shows on the station every day from noon to 3, but he talks about this and how like you don't see Indiana football players doing TikToks and being distracted by these other things, whereas you see it from Indiana basketball. And look, I don't think that's directly an accountability thing, but like this Indiana football team is very clearly focused, whereas Indiana basketball, it just doesn't always feel that way. It just doesn't. And I'm very interested to see what this Indiana basketball team looks like here in, I think 2 weeks from yesterday is their first game. And, as I talk about Cignetti and the success that he's had, I tweeted out something yesterday about him being coach of the year if they go 11-1 and then make the college football playoff. That is undoubtedly what should happen. But there's some concern about Cignetti moving. So I tweeted that out, and someone responded and was like, as soon as he does that, he's gone to Florida. Look, he's the hottest name in the sport right now. He showed up at Indiana, a basketball school, and just completely turned things around. Okay, and look, there's going to be some good jobs that open up this fall in the landscape of college football. Florida job's probably going to come open. The Baylor job could come open. It's a better job than Indiana because they love football, and it's in Texas, and there's a ton of talent around there. The Arkansas job could come open. I would argue that's a better job than Indiana because they're very clearly committed to being good at football. And if Florida State wanted to get a little spicy, they could definitely fire Mike Norvell. I don't think anyone would blink an eye. That job could also come open. All four of those jobs are better than the Indiana job as of right now. And I say right now because if Indiana wants to be good at football, they can be. They have the resources, money to do it. And if they do that, then Curt Cignetti's not going anywhere. Okay? He's not. Like, there's a good chance that Indiana's going to make the college football playoff this year. If Indiana, gives Curt Cignetti a raise, and if they commit more NIL money to this football program to win at the highest level, because that's ultimately what you have to do to compete with Ohio State, Oregon, Alabama, Texas. Like, you have to commit the resources to consistently compete at the highest level. If they do that, then why would Cignetti leave at a place that he just put in the college football playoff? Why would he leave a place where he just won 11 games? Whether or not he leaves isn't going to come down to any school in particular. Okay, like I don't think that he's the type of guy to be like, if Florida calls me, I'm leaving no matter what. Okay, if Baylor calls me, I'm leaving no matter what. I don't think that he's wired that way. I think that he just wants to be somewhere that's clearly committed to winning. So in order for him to stay at Indiana, it's going to come down to Indiana fully committing the resources to consistently compete at a high level in college football. If they do that, Curt Cignetti isn't going anywhere. He's not going anywhere. We come back here in about 4 minutes or so. Top 10 Tuesday. The 10 best teams in the NFL after week 7 is coming your way. Then at 11 o'clock, Zach Hicks, the Locked On Colts. He's going to join me. We're going to talk about the Colts win on Sunday. We're going to look ahead to that game against the Texans. 4 minutes. Top 10 Tuesday. Don't go anywhere.
The best takes, stories, and entertainment. It's the Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket, 1430 AM and 99.5 HD2.
What's going on? The Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy's Sports Ticket. Thanks for tuning in, no matter how you're tuning in. Zach Hicks of Locked On Colts set to join me here in about 20 minutes. It's Tuesday, which means we've got a top 10 Tuesday for you, the 10 best teams in the NFL after Week 7. Starting at the top here, number 10. I got to be honest. Another tough week. We're starting to really kind of figure out who these teams are. And it's fun. Like, I love doing this list every week. Number 10, a team that I still don't believe in after watching them play well on Sunday Night Football. We've got the Pittsburgh Steelers. Still not convinced. They won big on Sunday Night Football in front of everybody, so people are going to go crazy about him. But I just don't trust Russell Wilson. It's like, well, Jonathan, he played really well on Sunday night. Yeah, but I watched him be really bad the last 2 years in Denver. With that being said, despite getting off to a slow start, the Steelers scored 37 points. That cannot be ignored. That's the most that they've scored all year this year. The defense, still one of the best in the NFL as well. That's not the question about this team. The question is, can they be good offensively? Are they good enough offensively to beat some of the better teams in the NFL? Because we know that this defense is going to keep even the best offenses from going crazy. And look, if Russell Wilson in this offense can be consistent, this Steelers team is going to be a tough team to beat, but I've got to see it consistently before I move them up on the list. Number 9, the Chicago Bears. The Bears are 4-2. I had them 8th last week. They're coming off a bye. Caleb Williams is figuring it out slowly but surely. Okay, he's had 4 straight good games. Okay, we probably don't remember them because, like I said, they're coming off a bye. Now, the good games came against the Colts, Rams, Panthers, and Jaguars. Not exactly the best defenses in the world. Either way, he has clearly gotten better. What a concept. A guy got some reps and he got better. I still have questions about Caleb Williams because his best games have come against bad defenses. No other way to really put it. So we'll kind of continue to monitor Caleb Williams' big game this Sunday between the Bears and the Commanders. Cannot wait to watch that one. Number 1 overall pick, hopefully against the number 2 overall pick. Jaden Daniels banged up his ribs against the Panthers on Sunday. We'll kind of see whether or not he plays, but hopefully he does because that game's going to be awesome. When it comes to the Bears defense, say what you want about Matt Eberflus. He's got a good defense. Bears have been good defensively ever since they traded for a pass rusher last year. So we know this defense is good. If the offense can continue to improve, if Caleb Williams can continue to get better, then they're going to wind up being one of the better teams in the NFL. Number 8, the Houston Texans. 5-2, lost a close game to the Packers on Sunday, despite C.J. Stroud throwing for 84 yards and completing 10 of 21 passes. In C.J. Stroud's defense, this Houston Texans team is really banged up. But still, 10 of 21, 84 yards, not a great look. This offense of the Houston Texans, they really miss Nico Collins. Okay, I know they have Stephon Diggs, but the Bills got rid of him for a reason. Everyone points to the off-the-field stuff. But my thing is, on the field, they really went away from him the later that they got into the year. Like, the targets just kind of slowly disappeared. Okay, so I don't think Stephon Diggs is, as good as advertised. I think I said that, but before the year started, I can't really remember. But the Texans needed him to step up on Sunday, and he just didn't. Okay, part of that is because this Packers defense is good, but the Texans offense, a little underwhelming on Sunday. Defensively, they're good, but the Texans are very similar to the Colts. A lot of injuries on the defensive side of the ball. With that being said, like, they still held a dynamic Packers offense to 24 points, turned them over a couple times. They did their job. C.J. Stroud on the offense just couldn't get it done. When the Texans are healthy, they're one of the better teams in the NFL. The issue is they aren't healthy. So they're sitting at 8th, and they probably won't get healthy because this is the NFL. Number 7, I've got the Washington Commanders. 5-2. They crushed the Panthers on Sunday. That game was not close. 40-7. That was the final score. We didn't learn anything. The only thing we learned is that if Marcus Mariota has to play, then he and that offense will be just fine. Okay, this offense ran like clockwork, okay, with Marcus Mariota back there playing quarterback. They scored 40. They only gave up 7. I know it's the Panthers, but guys on the Panthers are getting paid. Okay, so like that is impressive. I don't want to get too carried away, though. The biggest takeaway from that game was Jaden Daniels getting hurt. That was the concern with him. Okay, he weighs less than me, and I am not 6'3". Okay, I'm 5'8", and I weigh more than Jaden Daniels. That is an issue, and he got hit hard. And if you watched him play at LSU, he didn't get down, he didn't slide. He's been better at that at the NFL level, but like it wasn't, unnormal for him to get lit up in college. And that's what happened on Sunday. He hurt his ribs. Hopefully he plays Sunday because like I said earlier, I want to see him and Caleb Williams play against each other. That would just be it's just going to be a lot of fun to watch. The NFL flexed it into that 425 slot so that everyone can see it. So hopefully he's good to go for Sunday. Number 6, the Buffalo Bills are 5-2. They beat a bad Titans team pretty handily on Sunday. The game got off to a rocky start, but eventually the Bills figured it out. Josh Allen still hasn't thrown an interception this year. Everyone's talking about Lamar Jackson because he's been on in prime time multiple times this year. But Josh Allen's playing incredible football right now. He's playing arguably the best football of his career. And to make things better, they just traded for Amari Cooper, who's going to make them better. He had a good day, 4 receptions, a touchdown, 64 yards. But Keon Coleman, rookie receiver out of Florida State, was a major beneficiary of Amari Cooper's presence on Sunday. He had, I think, 4 receptions for like 125 yards. The pass game looked so much better against a good Titans pass defense, one of the 10 best in the NFL heading into that game. Okay, so this Amari Cooper addition is a big deal. It's only going to make this Bills offense with a great quarterback even better. James Cook struggled a bit on Sunday, but he's one of the better running backs in the NFL. He's going to continue to contribute despite a rough performance on Sunday. The Bills defense still banged up, slowly getting healthier. Okay, when they can, just have, a normal amount of starters play, like they're going to be really good defensively. They'll be I think, they'll be up there as one of the 3 best teams in the AFC. I think they are right now the 3rd best team in the AFC, but once they get healthy defensively, I think we'll talk about them like the Chiefs and the Ravens with a team with legitimate Super Bowl aspirations. But as of right now, they aren't healthy, and we're taking them as they are. So they sit at 6th in my top 10 Tuesday, the best 10 teams in the NFL after week 7. Number 5, the Minnesota Vikings. 5-1, lost their first game of the year on Sunday to the Lions. Our Kirk Cousins bet of the week. Love it that cashed. Anyway, even though they lost, this is still one of the best teams in the NFL. They lost by 2. Okay. And the difference in the game on Sunday was the interception that Sam Darnold threw. Right. They were in field goal range. Brian Branch made a great play, like coming down, didn't take a great angle, ended up having to dive and make the interception. Like if he takes a better angle, which you would have thought that he would have because he's a really good player, like it's an easy pick. So, and that's kind of the concern about the Vikings, right? Sam Darnold, who is playing the best football of his career. Like it's not even a question, right? He's been really good, but I think this isn't a team really with Super Bowl aspirations because of Sam Darnold. And I want to, like, maybe it's because, he's 27. He's been in the NFL for like 6 years now. This is like his 4th team. So maybe that's clouding my judgment a bit, but he's got to be better if the Vikings want to be real Super Bowl contenders. Like he wasn't better than Jared Goff on Sunday. And if he had been, then the Vikings would have won that game. So he's got to be better if they want to be a legitimate Super Bowl contender. But I still have him as the fifth best team in the NFL because this defense is really good. I know they gave up 31, but the Lions are arguably the best offense in the NFL right now. Okay, Jared Goff's just on another level. I've got thoughts on him here in a couple minutes when I talk about where I have the Lions ranked, but the defense will bounce back. Brian Flores is one of the two best defensive coordinators in the NFL. It's him or it's Spags down there in Kansas City. So Vikings, they'll be fine. 5-1. They sit at 5th for Top 10 Tuesday, the 10 best teams in the NFL after Week 7. Number 4, the Green Bay Packers. 5-2. Nice win over Houston on Sunday. Jordan Love makes me nervous. Like, he just, every time he throws the football, I'm expecting either the best throw I've ever seen or the worst throw I've ever seen. And, he threw 2 picks on Sunday that weren't great. And then he comes back and he makes multiple throws that just don't make any sense. He's like, I'm sure you've seen it somewhere on social media where they're like on the 20-yard line or something like that. And he just rears back and throws the ball as hard as he can. And he throws it basically through the hands of a Houston Texans defender. And Tucker Kraft, who's been awesome this year for them at the tight end position, makes this just incredible catch. Not really incredible, but he lays out, catches it. The throw is just ridiculous. He's got a lot of Brett Favre in him, right? Just an absolute gunslinger, which can be good, right? Like, you can win games that way. Like, Brett Favre won a lot of games that way. But it's also nerve-wracking, and it could be a bad thing. You can lose games that way as well. So far, it's been good for him and the Packers. Once again, they're 5-2. The defense is incredibly underrated. They lead the NFL in takeaways. They have a great secondary. Okay, they get after the passer. I like their linebackers. If Jordan Love can just kind of rein in the turnovers a bit, then this is easily a Super Bowl contender. But right now, I've got some questions because Jordan Love just kind of turns the ball over a little bit too much for my liking. Number 3, the Detroit Lions. They are 5-1. Big win over the Vikings on Sunday on the road. They now sit atop the best division in the NFL. I dropped them last week, right? I think I had them ranked 3rd 2 weeks ago. Last week, I ranked them 6th because of the Aiden Hutchinson injury. That is still an issue for them. Okay, like, I know that they had 4 sacks against the Vikings, but I don't know. Like, I want to see more before I'm like, yeah, they'll be fine without one of the best pass rushers in the NFL. Here's the thing, though. I wouldn't have dropped them if I just knew that Jared Goff wasn't going to throw another incompletion for the rest of his life. Like, this dude has just been incredible. Okay, I said before the year that the Lions were going to be the 1 or 2 seed and that he would have a chance to win the MVP. As of today, Jared Goff and Lamar Jackson are the front runners for MVP right now. Okay, and look, it's as much as concerned as I am about Aiden Hutchinson not playing, and you have to get after the passer, and if you can get after the passer with 4, that's a huge advantage. You know that. I don't have to tell you that. It does, the Lions aren't going to lose if no one can stop them. Okay, the Vikings defense, which is one of the best in the NFL, came out, stifled the Lions offense for their first 3 or 4 drives, and then 5 out of the next 6 drives, the Lions scored on every single one. They scored 31 points against a really good Vikings defense. And if they continue to do that, they don't need Aiden Hutchinson. They're just going to outscore everybody because this Lions offense is incredible. Number 2 on my top 10 Tuesday, best 10 teams after week 7, I've got the Baltimore Ravens, 5-2. They handled the Buccaneers last night. I know they only won by 10. The Buccaneers made it close late, though, even though this game wasn't close. Lamar Jackson had a backward pass that the Buccaneers scored on. They then had an onside kick that the Buccaneers recovered, and then they scored again. The Ravens were up 34-10 at one point in the 4th quarter. That game was not close. The Ravens defense is getting better. They turned the Buccaneers over a couple times last night. I don't have to tell you about how great Derrick Henry's been because he's just all over social media. Lamar Jackson is again playing at an MVP level during the regular season. We'll see if he can do that in the playoffs because he hasn't done that at all in his career. Number 1, Kansas City. What a surprise. They are 6-0. I don't think it's possible for them to lose. His defense, one of the 3 best in the NFL. Okay, them, the Steelers, and the Vikings, those are the three best defenses in the league. Okay, like Spagnuolo, like one of the two best defensive coordinators in the NFL. It's him or Flores. Okay, Patrick Mahomes is playing the worst football of his career right now. He leads the NFL in interceptions thrown. He's thrown 8. And the Chiefs are still undefeated. They should end up being 9-0 because they play the Raiders, Buccaneers, and Broncos their next 3 games. Then they play the Bills. Okay, it feels like they're going to three-peat at this point in the year. They just feel inevitable because even though Mahomes is playing bad, he makes just enough plays at the end of the game. But there's still over half the season left, so we'll see if they can continue to find ways to win despite Patrick Mahomes turning the football over way too much. Teams that I considered but ended up not putting in: the Eagles, they're 4-2. Don't trust Sirianni. The Seahawks, but they're 1-3 in their last 4. Part of that's injuries, but the best teams figure out ways to win even when they aren't healthy. So left the Seahawks because of that. Almost put the Falcons on there. They were awful on Sunday. They got blown out by Seattle. I don't trust the Falcons defense at all. The Bengals, they're 3-4. They're kind of slowly creeping up. I want to see a little more from this defense. They played the Giants and the Browns. The defense looked good against them, but let's be honest, everyone's defense looks good against the Giants and the Browns. Want to see a little bit more from Cincinnati before I rank them, especially defensively, because they've got some issues there. Look, if they started 0-3 and still made the playoffs, wouldn't be surprised in the slightest because they got Joe Burrow. And yeah, we'll see. So that is Top 10 Tuesday, the 10 best teams in the NFL after week 7. When we come back here in 5 minutes, Zach Hicks is set to join. We're going to talk Colts, their win over the Dolphins, and what to kind of expect from them when they play against the Texans. That's coming your way here in 5 minutes.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for
It's the Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy's Sports Ticket, 1430 AM and 99.5 HD2.
What's going on? It's the Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy's Sports Ticket. Hope you're having a nice start to your week. Thanks for tuning in, no matter how you're tuning in. It is Tuesday. It is 11 o'clock, which means that Zach Hicks of Locked On Colts, you can follow him on Twitter at Zach Hicks2 to see all of his stuff. He joins the show. Zach, what's going on, man?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good, man. I mean, look, we can complain all we want, but the Colts have won 4 of their last 5. I mean, in the NFL, that's tough to do no matter who you're playing against. So I can't complain too much over here.
That's exactly right. And it is hard to do. What's even harder to do is to win 5 in a row, especially when you're on the road in Jacksonville for one of those 5 games.
Yes, that's the most difficult game right there.
It is. So, as always, as is tradition after an Anthony Richardson start on Sunday, we have to start with him. I'll leave it open. What did you think of Anthony Richardson on Sunday?
Man, so there's a couple thoughts that come to mind with this past game. I mean, one is we've still yet to see in his, 9 starts and 6 games that he's finished, like 5-6 games that he's finished. We've yet to see a game from him from start to finish where we could say afterwards, like, that was solid. Like that was a good, solid game. Like the closest things we have are the Houston Texans game from week 1 this year and the Los Angeles Rams game from last year. And even both of those games were, big play heavy. And he kind of showed out like with his big play ability late in those games, but they really weren't like great games from him overall. So you're still kind of waiting to see like that full game from him. And this one, I think it was a step up from like the Packers and the Bears games earlier in this season, but it still was like another game where it's like, we need to see better from our quarterback. Now, again, this comes within the context of this is a young quarterback. We know it's going to be rough. I mean, one of the rawest quarterbacks probably ever taken in the first round of the draft.
Yeah.
So we know it's going to be this long process, and we're all here to. I mean, maybe not all of us, but we all should be here to ride this thing out until the very end of it, the conclusion of this thing. So, we're here for the long term with this, the long ride with this thing. So we'll see where it goes from here. But I do think there are some concerning things showing up in terms of like we're still not seeing that that solid game or like that one game you can really hang your hat on and stuff. You want to see just, again, a little bit more growth. But again, this kid's been hurt a lot. He still only started 9 games, only finished like 6. So it's still kind of early. So it's tough. You're kind of in that tough period right now where it's like it's going to be ugly before it gets better. And hopefully it doesn't stay ugly all the way till the end of this season. I mean, I know they have just a gauntlet of teams coming up and they still play like a bunch of the best defenses in football the rest of the year, which is crazy. They seem like they only play good defenses this season.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll see. We'll see, man, how it goes from here. I mean, I do think he had some positive moments in this game. I mean, he, for the most part, didn't take many negative plays or commit too many bad mistakes. I mean, the fumble in the red zone was massive, obviously, but aside from that, I mean, he didn't take any sacks despite being pressured at like a 70% clip. He didn't throw a bad interception. I don't think he made too many bad decisions out there. And then, you know what, when the arm wasn't working, he used his legs quite a bit to supplement the offense, and they were able to get the points they needed to win this game. I mean, for all of his struggles in this game, in the fourth quarter, he was 5 of 6 passing for, over 10 yards of completion, I think, in that fourth quarter, and got the Colts those 2 field goal drives they needed to win the game. So, it's another one of those games though, where it's like a lot of negatives, still not the standard you want your quarterback to be at, but you like what he showed in the fourth quarter to get the Colts over the hump and get the Colts that win. It's kind of like the Chicago game minus the bad mistakes. So hopefully, in this next stretch of games, he can put together a couple solid outings and a couple where, he looks like a more complete and good quarterback. But, we're kind of in that rough period right now. I still like some of the things he's doing, but you really want to see a little bit more growth going forward. Progression isn't always linear. It's not going to be, day 1, you're at 1, day 2, you're at 2, day 3, you're at 3. It's not always going to be this perfect climb, but you do want to start seeing a little bit more of the flash, especially compared to what we saw like last year during his rookie season. We saw a little bit more of that flash. You want to see some of that come back with him in this Colts offense going forward.
Yeah, I'm with you. That's been very well established in terms of we need to wait and see. Joined by Zach Hicks, host of Locked On Colts. I thought that the biggest takeaway from me was Anthony Richardson didn't turn the ball over, which is like a Jonathan, like no quarterback should ever turn the ball over. But Mahomes has thrown 8 interceptions. Jordan Love has thrown a pick in 5 straight games, and all that good stuff. But he didn't put the ball in harm's way. I didn't feel like he had any like really bad misses in terms of like we've seen games where he sailed the ball out of or over, Josh Downs' head on like 3rd and 3 when he's wide open. I didn't think we had any bad misses like that. I feel like every ball he threw, except for the balls that he's obviously throwing away, it felt like receivers had chances to make a play on the ball, which is an improvement in terms of the accuracy stuff. I feel like once he completed that deep over, even though I don't know if deep overs are 33 yards downfield, like the ball that he threw to Pittman was. But once he made that throw, like he really settled in. Like from that point, he was 7 of 12 passing for 90 something yards. So like I felt like he was just rusty. And once he kind of had a good completion, he settled in. His legs were awesome to not only avoid sacks, but he picked up some first downs. He led the Colts in rushing. He accounted for 65% of the Colts yards on Sunday, which is an impressive thing no matter how bad the offense was. But my takeaway from the game was this Dolphins secondary is really good. Like it's one of numbers wise, it's one of the 3 best in the NFL. So my thing was like, I felt like the struggles that Richardson had were more so due to the Dolphins defense playing well as opposed to him being bad. Would you kind of agree with that assessment?
Yeah, I think it's at least like 50-50. Like there were some plays that Richardson left on the field, and there's some times where it's like you'd like to see him get through his reads a little quicker and maybe just find a dump off so you can keep some positive yards going on early downs. But yeah, for the most part, I mean, the Dolphins had 2 weeks to prepare for this game because they had their bye week, and their defense coordinator, I think it's Anthony Weaver is his name, just did a fantastic job in this game in terms of disguising coverage, in terms of bringing a very blitz-heavy approach. And I don't think the Dolphins are one of the more blitz-heavy teams in the league this year. So they really brought that change up to this game where the Colts kind of weren't ready for it. And also, again, you're kind of going after a quarterback who's missed the last 2.5 games, and you're just bringing this like very diverse blitz-heavy approach. They were using Jalen Ramsey as like a absolute defensive weapon. He was covering Josh Downs in the slot. He was blitzing. He was in the box for rundowns to take away a lot of the RPOs and the read options. So they had a really good plan of attack for this Colts offense. And the Colts did kind of adjust a little bit late in the second half. I mean, they scored 13 points in the second half, which isn't like a fantastic number, but if you extrapolate that over a full game, that's like a 26-point game. That's, it's a solid outing for a half of play. So, yeah, I think it certainly could have been better just organizationally on offense. I think they could have adjusted quicker, and I think Richardson could have played better too. But like you said, this Dolphins defense, they came out prepared. I think the Ravens defensive coach tree, I mean, if we're talking like the guys who came from Mike McDonald, I mean, McDonald's defense did good against the Colts last year, and then you look at the Titans game last week, they had a lot of success against this Colts offense, and then obviously this week with the Dolphins. I think that coaching tree kind of just knows how to throw the stops at Steichen to really slow down his offense. So it was kind of the combination of, like a really good defense that knew what they were doing and was really prepared for this. And the Colts kind of being a little shell-shocked in that first half. I'm very fortunate, and the Colts are very fortunate that the Dolphins offense just had no juice whatsoever in this game. And, Alec Ingold was, I guess, a Colts secret agent on the other side in this game too. Yeah. So we got really lucky in this one. But look, man, when it comes to the NFL, it's better to be lucky than good. And to beat any team, regardless, I mean, again, this could be one of the worst teams in football when it comes to the Dolphins this year. But to beat any team coming off their bye week when they're, I know we were the home team, but again, they're coming off their bye week and stuff. Like, I take that as a major win for the Colts. And like I said, they've won 4 out of their last 5, 2 quality wins against the Bears and Steelers. Like, there's a lot more we could be upset about right now with this Colts team. They're playing for a chance to be a division tie right now at the halfway point of the season, this upcoming week. So, we get all doom and gloom during game day, and we watch this defense give up, 200 yards rushing when the other team can't throw the ball, and we watch Richardson complete 40% of his passes, and we scream and cry all Sunday. But at the end of the day, this Colts team is sitting at 4-3. I mean, they're doing what they need to do right now, and hopefully that can continue down this next stretch here of this brutal stretch of 5 games coming up.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Joined by Zach Hicks, host of Locked On Colts. You brought up the run defense and how they gave up almost 200 yards on the ground again. Are you aware of the Gus Bradley 2-play rule? Because that, I think, explains what's going on. Do you know what this is?
What's the 2-play rule here?
It takes Gus Bradley 2 plays every drive to realize that he's playing against a backup quarterback and that the offense doesn't want to throw the football. The number of drives where the Dolphins would come out, it's like 8-yard run by Mozart, 7-yard run by A-Chain, and then Gus Bradley has a light bulb go off of, wait, we're playing Tyler Huntley, or wait, we're playing against Tim Boyle. They probably don't want to throw the football. Let's put an extra guy in the box. Like,
yeah,
that I think explains a lot of the issues. The other part of it is, like, I want to give Gus Bradley the benefit of the doubt here in terms of Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle were non-existent. And I haven't gone back and watched the tape. I'm assuming that you have by this point. Was their concern with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle part of why the run defense was so bad?
Yeah, it was definitely part of it. What we've actually seen these last couple weeks with the Colts, especially against the Titans and against other teams since that Packers game, is they've been loading up the box. I mean, they've been bringing Nick Cross down on early downs. Adam Gotsis is playing defensive end. They're playing Sam linebackers a lot out there in their base D, and they're really loading up the box early on downs to stop the rushing attack. In this game, they still did a lot of their like big defensive end. They still had Sam linebacker on the field for a good amount of snaps, but they kept Cross back as the 2 high safety quite a bit in this game. Probably more so. I'd have to chart it, but I think they more so did it in this one than any other game I can think of this year. And I think a lot of that has to do with Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill. Like, even if, I don't even want to get hyperbolic and say if you or me were quarterback, because I don't know if I could even get 10 yards down the field, but
yeah,
maybe 2-hand throw. I have tiny hands, man. Maybe 2-hand throw, something like that with the ball. But even with Tyler Huntley back there, Tyreek Hill's speed is such a different level of football. I mean, even on that one he couldn't track over the shoulder, I mean, Kenny Moore gave him like 3 or 4 yards of cushion and played it really well, turned and ran with him after being physical a little bit at the line, and Tyreek Hill was still separating. Like, if Hill just turns his head around to track that fade ball, I mean, it's probably like a 30-yard gain, and that was with the Colts playing too high over the top. Like, Hill's speed is just different, and the Colts were really accounting for that at times. And I don't want to say the Dolphins were drawing up deep developing plays in this game, but there were certainly, 3 to 4 plays they were trying to do a deep shot, and the Colts were backing guys. I mean, their safeties were 20 yards back. Their corners were fading back. Like, I definitely think that had an impact on the ground game, and the Colts were essentially operating this game like, hey, look, they can run for 200 on us as long as they don't hit that deep shot to Hill or Waddle. Like, we should be fine. And look, it kind of showed in this game that if a team wants to run the ball 50 times on you, there's going to be chances to punch that ball out and get fumbles, and especially when you're giving the ball to Alec Ingold a couple times in the game, like a fullback who doesn't really touch the ball that much. So I think it was kind of like a bend, don't break type of style, which I know all fans hate hearing is bend, don't break, but it ultimately was like, hey, your offense is scoring 11 points a game. As long as you're not getting lucky with that deep ball and we're making you have to methodically go down the field on us, like, that's fine. Like, we will live with that, because eventually you're going to make a mistake with Tyler Huntley and Tim Boyle. And that's what happened in this game. So I think it was a good game plan. Again, would have liked the run defense to be a little bit cleaner. And I think the linebacker play could have been a bit better all around, but I still don't have too many complaints. I mean, look, when your defense gives up 10 points in an NFL game, it's hard to complain too much, especially when your offense has 9 of 13 drives were like 3 and outs basically for the Colts.
Yep.
Like,
it was rough.
Like, Colts offense was not helping their defense much at all in this game, but the defense came to play, stepped up and forced 2 big turnovers. Like, they did their job in this one.
I'm with you, joined by Zach Hicks, host of Locked On Colts. You can follow him on Twitter at ZachHicks2. He writes as well. So you talking about the defense, they're why the Colts are 4-3. Like, yes, they've had some games where they've given up a bunch of rushing yards. The game against Jacksonville was ugly. But the reason why they went on Sunday is a large reason why they've won a lot of these games is they forced 2 turnovers. One, when Miami was about to score, they had to punch out against Alec Ingold, and then they had I don't remember who the other punch out was on, but they picked it up and they ran it back to the Dolphins 28, and the Colts scored four plays later to tie it up. How impressed have you been with this Colts defense in terms of their ability to turn other teams over?
It's such a big part of today's football. I know that we're kind of entering this defensive era of football right now. Like, we had the big offensive explosion of like 2010 to like 2019-ish there for a little bit. And then since then, it's been like this big defensive era of football. But even in this defensive era of football, like, it's so vital to get those turnovers. Like, that's what changes games. I mean, you look at the Matt Eberflus defenses with the Colts a couple of years ago, they were not a particularly great defense. Like, in yards allowed, they were not that great, especially in passing yards allowed. But where they were like a top 10 defense every year is points allowed, and that's because they were punching the ball. I mean, Shaquille Leonard was a turnover machine, and other guys on that defense were turnover machines, and that's why that Colts defense was effective. And what we've kind of seen under Gus Bradley his last couple of years is a defense that doesn't force as many turnovers. And yes, losing Shaquille Leonard is a big part of that, but you still want other guys to be able to step up and force those turnovers. So to see in these most recent games, I mean, in this past game, you got punch outs from Saguna Luby and Zaire Franklin. The game before that, Julian Blackmon got a pick. And in the Steelers game, I don't think they had one in the Steelers game, but the Bears game, they had 2 picks from Jalen Jones. Those couple of turnovers that they're forcing are massive, massive plays that not only takes the other team's offense off the field, but also gives your team, your offense, some spark, some life, and good field position typically in these situations. So, yeah, like, when it comes to NFL defense nowadays, you don't need to be this lockdown, shutdown unit. Like, you don't need to be perfect. You can be a bend, don't break team. It's just when you are bending, one, don't break, obviously, in the red zone, but two, make sure while you're bending that you're punching the ball out or you're jumping routes and trying to force those turnovers. Because if you're making offenses go 10, 12, 13, 14 plays on you every single drive, like, they're bound to make a mistake. You just got to capitalize on those mistakes. And for the most part, these last couple of weeks, the Colts have capitalized. I know they've missed a couple of turnovers here and there, but they've capitalized these last couple of weeks. And again, like you said, not a perfect unit. I mean, the front seven play could be a lot better. I know they're really banged up there, but the front seven play could be much better. But the secondary is playing some really good football right now, especially the 3 starting corners are playing good football, and they're forcing turnovers, man. So it's hard to complain. I mean, hats off to Gus Bradley. I mean, I know we all hate him. We all want him gone, like, and he's public enemy number 1 during the game and even after the game. But, like, we can't bash them so hard during the losses and then not give them praise during the wins and games like this. I mean, the Colts offense sputtered the last 2 weeks, and they come out 2-0 in this game. I know against 2 of the worst teams in football, but, like, these could have been disaster games, against Miami and Tennessee. And they come out of these games with wins because their defense stepped up. I mean, the Tennessee game, they had 3 straight stops or 4 straight stops in that fourth quarter against the Tennessee Titans. I mean, where are they if they allow one of those to get a field goal? Like, arguably lose to a terrible Tennessee team. Like, this defense deserves credit when they do good things, and they've done good things the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And in terms of no one liking Gus Bradley, I will like him a lot more if he plays Grant Stewart. That dude's awesome. Like,
Grant Stewart's fun. He's fun.
Like, he's fast. He's physical. Like, he's everywhere. It's so great. He's playing special teams, and then he's, playing, in place of EJ Speed and Carly's who got hurt during the game. But, like, 19 tackles is just absurd. And for me, like, that points to 2 things. 1, your motor's really high, and 2, you're reading things faster than everyone else. Because, like, when you have that many tackles and you're in on that many plays, like, you have to get to the ball earlier than everyone else. Is that kind of what you saw with film? Like, he's just reading and reacting to plays faster than everyone else on this Colts defense?
To a degree. I think, man, it's so hard to talk about because, like, for like a 4th or 5th string linebacker, it's like the best day you could hope for from a linebacker. Like, he came out there, had his hair on fire, like he always does. I mean, he's been like this since day 1 of college. I remember watching him as a prospect. Like, this is how he plays football. It's very a Landon Roberts-esque. It's very Matthew Adams-esque, when we had Matthew Adams here in Indy. You can even go back further than that and go like all the linebackers from the 90s. Like, this is what you're getting with Grant Stewart. You were getting a pure thumper that is going to run all over the field, and he's going to throw his entire body at the ball carrier on every single play, like regardless if it's early in there, late in there. I'm not going to sit here and say like, oh my gosh, the Colts have secretly had this star linebacker on the bench, because I do think there are some issues when he's on the field. Like, he doesn't give you much in coverage. I don't think he's very, like, unless he's going forward, he's not a very good football player. But when he's going forward, he is really good. So it's kind of hard to play that nowadays in today's league with play action and drop back stuff, and especially in this scheme where what you ask of these linebackers in coverage. But in a game like this, man, where the team was going to run it so much against you, and then when they were going to throw it, these quarterbacks are, again, this was like playing like a bad college team essentially in terms of their quarterback play. Like, they couldn't. Yeah, they were basically playing like Wisconsin or something out there, running the ball 50 times and can't throw the ball whatsoever. So in a game like this, man, you want that college like thumper linebacker, and that's what Grant Stewart was. So, I think there is a role for him on this defense. Like, maybe early downs, you get him out there at Sam, and you just have him just crash into pulling guards and crash into fullbacks and let him do his thing. But like, probably not like a typical starter. But again, like, you want to give credit. Like, it's hard to, because you want to give credit for guys playing like this. Like, this was awesome, like, career game. I'm so happy he got something like this and he did what he did. And that's kind of what I want to focus on, because like, in the game plan that needed a Grant Stewart, he came out there and did his thing, man. And that's just who he is as a player. Like, it was really fun. I loved all the post-game interviews and stuff with him too. Like, a really open and fun guy, really easy guy to root for. And look, there's certainly a role for this guy going forward. I mean, he's a special teams ace, special teams demon. You want to get him on there for some Sam stuff and some blitz stuff. Like, throw him out there, because he will run 100 miles per hour. He'll dive. He'll throw his hair at everybody. Like, he's such a fun player, man. Like, it was great seeing it. It was great seeing what he was doing out there. Perfect game plan for him. And gosh, he brought me back to, again, the 90s and early 2000s days of thumper linebackers just throwing their body like recklessly everywhere. It was really fun to watch.
Joined by Zach Hicks, host of Locked on Colts. Yeah, with hair like that, you just knew that Grant Stewart was going to be a fun interview after the game. 2 more questions for you, and I will let you go. Looking forward to Sunday. Big game, chance to be tied at the top of the division, which, with the way that the year started, who would have thought that we'd be here? What are the Colts' chances against Houston? That's a team that's really banged up, by the way. Like, they've got more injuries than the Colts do. C.J. Stroud was worse than Anthony Richardson on Sunday against the Packers. So what do you kind of think about the Colts' chances?
I'm not going to say they should be favored or anything, but like, it's a good time to get them right now. No Nico Collins, who, for my money, is a top 5 receiver in football. Like, I think he is a fantastic player. So no Nico Collins. The Texans' offensive line is in a disastrous spot right now with just, they can't pick up stunts. They can't pick up blitzes. And CJ Stroud's been under duress. Stroud hasn't looked comfortable in the last couple of weeks. A lot of their play calling has been very vanilla overall, because they don't have that, deep threat. Now, I'm not saying their offense is bad, because Stroud is still a good player. Like, Stroud will be able to get some things going against this Colts defense, but it's kind of a very vulnerable time to get them. Like, a really good team, and you get them at a vulnerable time, and you kind of get them on the road when they just came off this emotional loss to the Packers. Like, I think this is a good time for the Colts. And you know how divisional games can get so weird. Like, it just takes a couple plays, and there you are at the end of the day. I mean, how many times do we see the Peyton Manning Colts lose to the Jacksonville Jaguars when the Jaguars were one of the worst teams in football? Like, it's just what happens with these divisional games. So I think they have a good shot. Like, I don't know if I'm going to pick them this week, but I think they have a pretty good shot to be competitive in this one. It really comes down to the game plan from Steichen and what kind of Richardson game we get. But I think they have a puncher's chance in this game. I would not be shocked if they pull off the upset, and this is one of the games they steal during this brutal 5-game stretch, because I don't know if they're going to be able to steal against the Vikings or the Lions or the Bills, but a divisional game against a team you've already seen this year, and you kind of get that round 2 revenge here. Like, I think this is a game that they have a good chance with, and I'm hopeful they can be ready for this one and steal this one on the road.
Jonathan Taylor and DeForest Buckner, both optimistic to play. That's what Steichen said yesterday during his press conference. I know we're all excited about Jonathan Taylor. I think it'd be more beneficial for the Colts if DeForest Buckner played as opposed to Jonathan Taylor. What do you kind of think about that take? And what does DeForest Buckner bring to this defense that's really needed?
I'll just say that as long as Richardson's at quarterback, the run game floor is raised enough to where you can kind of survive the run game without Taylor.
That's how I feel.
Yeah. But I mean, with Taylor, the ceiling is raised so much higher. So obviously you want Jonathan Taylor out there, but the run defense and even the interior pass rush in particular too, like it's just the floor is so much lower without DeForest Buckner that just getting him out there, even if it's only for like 20 snaps in this next game, like you have him in the pass rush only type of role, is such a big thing, because it's kind of like what we say with Richardson at quarterback, where it's like, even if he's not running the ball, just the threat of him running helps the run game. Well, when you look at Buckner on defense, just having him on the field, the threat of Buckner there on the middle gives everyone else better opportunities to win their pass rush, because Buckner is going to draw double teams, going to draw a lot of attention, and you can get those single teams for Dio Dangle and interior, who's been rushing pretty well the last couple of weeks. Like Latu can rush a little bit more freely off the edge because he's got that dominant presence on the inside. So getting DeForest Buckner back would be huge. I really think, this defense has desperately needed his presence, especially on pass rushing downs. Like that's where we've seen the issue with the Colts pass rush, where it's like the edge rushers are doing a pretty decent job winning and getting depth in the pocket, but quarterbacks are stepping up and escaping from the pocket because there's no interior rush, because a lot of the interior rushes, Dio Dangbo, he's so explosive, he kind of overruns the quarterback at times. And then the other guy out there has been like Raekwon Davis, Grover Stewart, Taven Bryan, and those guys aren't getting the depth needed, especially against double teams. So just getting Buckner back out there, man, for that interior rush and collapsing the pocket would be so massive for this Colts team. Like they desperately need him. I don't know if either guy's going to go this week. I really, really hope they can. But even if it's in a limited capacity, just getting both those guys back on the field. I mean, if you're ranking the Colts players in terms of notoriety, impact, and, Pro Bowl potential, Hall of Fame potential, whatever you want to say or whatever, like that's two of your top three players on the roster right there in Taylor and Buckner behind Quentin Nelson. So like you really need those guys back as soon as possible, because they are big time impact players, and not many NFL teams can win with two top three overall players out of the lineup. I know the Colts have found a way these last couple of weeks, but it's one thing to beat the Dolphins and the Titans. It's another thing to beat the Texans and the Bills and the Vikings and the the Lions and the Jets. I mean, gosh, a lot of good teams coming up here. So hopefully they can get those guys back here pretty soon.
Hopefully they can. The other thing with Buckner is the depth, just rotating Raekwon Davis, Grover Stewart, and your favorite player ever, Taven Bryant. That is just like those dudes, they're huge. They kind of run out of gas quickly. I think just getting a fourth guy in there would I think it'd help all around, just giving guys more plays off to kind of rest and recover. So hopefully they're both back, because like you said, these are two of the better players on this Colts roster. Zach, thanks for your time, man. You were great as always.
Yep, thanks for having me, man.
See you. That is the great Zach Hicks. You can follow him on Twitter at Zach Hicks2. Checked out Locked On Colts. He also writes about the Colts as well. When we come back here in about 4 minutes, basketball right around the corner. We got the NBA starting up tonight, and Indiana basketball starts 2 weeks from tomorrow. Purdue basketball starts, I think, 2 weeks from yesterday. So basketball almost here in full swing. I got some thoughts on that when we come back here in 4 minutes.
Unadulterated sports talk with unfiltered takes. It's the real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket, 1430 AM and 99.5 HD2.
What's going on? It's the real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy Sports Ticket. Hope you're having a nice day. Thanks for tuning in, no matter how you're tuning in. Hope that you're off to a good start this week. If you want to end your week on a high note, Bourbon and Birdies, that's where it's at. Head over to IndySportsTicket.com. You can buy tickets to Bourbon and Birdies. If you like bourbon, if you like good food, and you like hitting golf balls, Bourbon and Birdies, that is the place for you. Taking place at Back 9 Golf downtown. If you've ever been to Top Golf, imagine a better version of that. That is Back 9 downtown. You get an hour in the bed to hit golf balls with the purchase of your ticket, plus a lot of good bourbon and a lot of good food. It's going to be a blast. That is Saturday from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. at Back 9 Golf. Basketball, it's around the corner. And by that, I mean it's basically here. The NBA season starts tonight. Lakers are playing. The Knicks are playing. The Knicks are playing the Celtics. I don't remember who the Lakers are playing. They're playing Minnesota. Perfect. Okay, going to be just a great night. You know, whether you like Bronny or not, whether you like LeBron James or not, whether you like that Bronny's in the NBA because of LeBron or not. Tonight's going to be really cool, getting to see them both play together. And then at that point, Bronny James will be sent to the South Bay Lakers. That's what should happen at least. And we'll forget about him altogether. So NBA starts tonight. Indiana plays their first game tomorrow night on the road against the Pistons. I can't wait. I'm going to be tuned in because they're playing the Pistons, and the Pistons have multiple young players that I like watching. Cade Cunningham, Jaden Ivey. Hopefully we get big things from Jaden Ivey this year. Anyway, Indiana basketball, IU, they start 2 weeks from tomorrow. I have no idea what to expect from this Indiana team. They've brought in a lot of transfers. Hopefully those guys can shoot, because that's really what Indiana needed last year. I think the guy that I'm most excited to watch is Mackenzie Mbako. Okay, what does he look like in his sophomore year? He can clearly score. He shot the ball well last year, but he's got to be a little better on defense. I like his versatility. He can play the 3. That's what he played a lot of last year. He can play the 4 as well. And like, of all the IU players I'm excited to see this year, it's Mackenzie Mbako, because he was highly touted coming out of high school, came to Indiana instead of Duke. Like, the kid is very talented, and I'm just excited to see what he looks like. How did he get better? Okay, that's the thing. Like, I know we're excited about all these transfers, but if the guys who returned got better, that's important. Like, you don't want guys that stay the same. So hopefully those guys improved in the offseason. Purdue basketball, they start 2 weeks from yesterday. Okay, so much of their season is going to come down to Braden Smith and Fletcher Lawyer, especially Braden Smith, because he's the point guard, and I think he's the guy that everyone is kind of expecting to step up and be a good player. And he is a good player. But he, along with everyone else, was a benefactor of Zach Edey. Okay, Zach Edey's presence and just how dominant he was. So I am intrigued to see what Purdue's going to look like without Zach Edey, right? Like, he's been the best player in the country the last 2 years. His absence is going to greatly impact this Purdue team. If Braden Smith and Fletcher Lawyer can come back better scorers, then they'll be fine. Like, I know they have a bunch of talented freshmen. I got to be honest, though. I don't care about the talented freshmen, okay? Freshmen don't win Big Ten titles, and they don't win games in March. Experienced guards do. Fletcher Lawyer and Braden Smith are both very well experienced, but they're going to be asked to do a lot more this year than just catch and shoot and run screen and roll with Zach Edey and throw him the ball in the post. So hopefully they're ready for that. I'm sure they will be, because Matt Painter's one of the best coaches in college basketball. I feel more confident in Purdue this year than I do Indiana, because they simply have the better coach. But hopefully Mike Woodson can figure it out. All that he has left to do is win a Big Ten title and win a national title. So, you know, he's really close. We'll see. So college basketball right around the corner. NBA action starts tonight. Pacers' first game of the season is tomorrow night. Can't wait for it. It's going to be so good. I love basketball. I'm glad that it's back, but it's football season. When we come back here in about 4 minutes, I'm going to talk football. Anthony Richardson all that good stuff when we return here in 4 minutes.
More winners, more often. It's the real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy's Sports Ticket, 1430 AM and 99.5 HD2.
What's going on? It's the real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy Sports Ticket. Thanks for tuning in. No matter how you're tuning in, it is greatly appreciated. Head over to YouTube, Indy Sports Ticket, subscribe, watch the stream there so you can comment in the chat and be part of the conversation. And this conversation is about Anthony Richardson because he's the most popular person in Indianapolis right now. You could argue that that's, for not good reasons because his play hasn't been great, but there's been a lot of questions about his development and whether or not he can improve. I am in the firm boat of he can improve because when I was in college, I played baseball with guys who came in incredibly raw, really ugly swings, and they improved to a point where they could play baseball successfully at a Division II level. Okay. Players get better. Like it happens all the time. And the questions about Anthony Richardson's accuracy, like, sure, is he inaccurate right now? Yes, but there are a lot of quarterbacks who come into the NFL and are inaccurate. And I'm a believer because I've seen guys progress and get better in the accuracy department that Anthony Richardson can become more accurate. Okay, like Josh Allen comes in his rookie year, appears in 12 games, started 11 of them. That season, he threw for just over 2,000 yards, 10 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. He only completed 52% of his passes. That's not very good. That's worse than where Anthony Richardson's at right now through 9 games. He's completed 54% of his passes. Josh Allen's second year started all 16 games, threw for just over 3,000 yards, 20 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. He completed 59% of his passes. I would say that he got better. I would say that he got more accurate. From that year on, year 3 and forward, he's been one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. He's completed no less than 63% of his passes, thrown for no less than 4,000 yards, and he's thrown at least 29 touchdowns. I think it's safe to say Josh Allen got better. I think it's safe to say that Josh Allen became more accurate with more reps that he got. And I can hear some of you, Jonathan, that's just one example. Like, is there anyone else? Yes, there's plenty of guys. Do you remember when Lamar Jackson came out of college and he refused to run the 40-yard dash because some people thought he should play wide receiver? Pretty similar to crazy people out here in Indianapolis saying that Anthony Richardson should play tight end. Okay, the first season, the people who thought Lamar Jackson should play wide receiver had a point. Lamar Jackson only completed 58% of his passes. He appeared in all 16 games. He only started 7 of those. He only threw 3 touchdowns. He barely threw for 1,000 yards in about 150 attempts. He relied on his legs more than his arm his rookie year. Even his second year in the NFL, he did the exact same thing. And the people who said that he should play receiver instead of quarterback appeared to be correct. Then his second year, even though he relied on his legs a lot, he was still absolutely electric. He threw for over 3,000 yards. He threw 36 touchdowns and only 6 interceptions. From that point forward, everyone who said that he should be a wide receiver stopped talking, and they never brought it up again because they realized how dumb they sounded. And they accepted that Lamar Jackson improved as a passer. Look at him now. He's, arguably the second best quarterback in the NFL. I would take Josh Allen before him, but the point still remains. He improved as a passer. It's amazing. It's almost like players get better the more reps that they have. It just took Lamar Jackson some time to figure things out. He needed live game reps to figure out how to read a defense and to know where to go with the ball, right? And when things break down and go crazy, he's highly athletic and he's able to go make plays with his legs. We're in this, not fun phase of Anthony Richardson where he's still figuring things out, and we see him rely on his legs from time to time when things go haywire. We saw it a lot on Sunday. Okay? Like that is the phase of Anthony Richardson that we're in right now. And that's not a bad thing because the Colts are 4-3 and they're 5-4 in the games that Anthony Richardson has started. Here's another example for you of a player who's gotten better throughout his time in the NFL. Jalen Hurts, his rookie year, he only completed 52% of his passes. His second year, he completed 61%. From year 3 on, he's been at 65% or better. Look at that. He got more accurate. His completion percentage went up. He improved over the course of his career. Jalen Hurts just needed the reps for it to happen, just like Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen needed the reps so they could get better. Peyton Manning checks this box as well. He comes in his rookie year. He not only leads the league and holds the all-time record for interceptions thrown in a season, but he only completed 58% of his passes. That's not very good. Years 2 through 4, he only completed 62% of his passes. And then year 5 and on, he goes to a different level, sits around 65 or 66%. Okay, Peyton Manning became more accurate and completed more passes the more reps that he got. He improved over the course of time that he was in the NFL. John Elway, one of the best quarterback prospects ever at the time when he came out, into the NFL draft. John Elway, rookie year, only completed 48% of his passes. That's worse than where Anthony Richardson's at right now. Year 2, John Elway jumped to 56%, which is pretty good at that time. He got more accurate. This is a normal occurrence in the NFL. Steve McNair, his first year as a starter, he completed only 52% of his passes. The next year, his completion percentage jumped to 58%. He got more accurate. This is a pattern. This is a very common thing for most quarterbacks that come into the NFL. The more reps they get, the more accurate they become. Okay? Anthony Richardson needs to be given time. Okay? There is no way around it. Okay? Thanksgiving is like a month away, which is kind of absurd. Okay? This year's just flying by. I like pie. Pie is one of my favorite things about Thanksgiving. But here's the truth of the matter about pie. If you take the best ingredients in the world and you put them in the pie, and I gotta be honest, I don't know how to make a pie. I just know how to eat them. And you put the ingredients together and they're the best, and then you put it in the oven. It doesn't matter if you don't let it finish baking. Doesn't matter how good the ingredients are if you don't let the pie finish baking. Anthony Richardson, it's the exact same thing. I get it. Through the first 9 games of his career, he hasn't been very good. He's gotten hurt. The fact that he slid on Sunday was really nice. It seems like he's learning. That's a positive sign. Okay? He needs to be given time to finish baking. Because if you pull a pie out of the oven too early, it doesn't matter what the ingredients are. It's not going to taste good. Now, there's a chance that the ingredients that you put in the pie are terrible and you let it cook and it's awful when you eat it. That is a possibility, and that is what could happen with Anthony Richardson. But we're never going to know if the ingredients are any good and if the pie's any good if we don't give it time to bake. Anthony Richardson needs time. He's going to get better. It's going to happen, okay? Because it's rare for players not to improve with reps. I played college baseball. Every player that showed up and stuck around for more than a year got better. You know why? Because they played a lot, right? Between practice and games, dudes got better. And that's just how it works. The more you do anything, the better you're going to get at it. Okay, for me, like I've got a great boss who has helped me a lot improve, in the world of radio. But guess what? Even if my boss was terrible and he was just like, Jonathan, you're on the air, go figure it out. Even without proper guidance, I would have gotten better at radio just because I was doing it a lot. People get better through repetition. Anthony Richardson, same thing. He needs time. As of right now, we're 9 games into the Anthony Richardson experiment. He's completing 54% of his passes. That's not good. Okay, I'm not going to sit here and be like Anthony Richardson's been great because he hasn't. Is Joe Flacco better right now? Probably. Okay, Anthony Richardson has not been good. But in the early parts of the careers of all the quarterbacks that I just listed, none of them were good at this point. None of them were good 9 games into their career. Okay, the issue is we saw Mahomes show up, sit out for a year, and then immediately look like one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. Guess what? That isn't normal. That's why he's already a first ballot Hall of Famer. Like he could retire right now, and there's no doubt in anyone's mind that Patrick Mahomes would go into the Hall of Fame. Okay? And here's the other thing. All the quarterbacks that I mentioned, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Peyton Manning, John Elway, Steve McNair, Jalen Hurts, none of them got better by sitting down on the bench and watching a 39-year-old journeyman quarterback play. They all got better by playing in the game. Anthony Richardson is the exact same way. He's got to play. And it's like, look, I'm with you guys. It's not fun watching him sail a ball out of bounds when it's 3rd and 4 and a guy's wide open. It's not fun. It's frustrating. Okay? Incredibly frustrating. And if Anthony Richardson continues to look like this in 10 to 15 games, I promise you, I will shut up. I will listen to the criticism. You can criticize me. You can call me dumb. That's fine. I'll be criticizing Anthony Richardson and the Colts as well if he looks like this in 10 to 15 games. But as of right now, we're 9 games in. He needs reps. Everyone knows it. And he's not going to get them by watching Joe Flacco. There's only so much you can learn in practice. At some point, you have to go out and do the thing. So the people out there who think that Joe Flacco should play at all on Sunday against the Texans, you are wrong. And quit suggesting it. If the Colts play Joe Flacco instead of Anthony Richardson on Sunday, do their chances of beating the Texans go up? Probably, but not by that much. They don't get that much better. All that playing Joe Flacco does on Sunday, all that it does is delay the inevitable. Because at some point, they got to play Richardson to figure out whether or not he can do this. Okay, to figure out whether or not he's going to progress to a point where he can be the Colts franchise quarterback. We are 27 games away from Anthony Richardson being eligible for an extension. So the Colts have 27 games to figure out whether or not Anthony Richardson is their guy going forward. He needs to take every single snap, every single one of them. Whether that means the Colts make the playoffs, whether it means that they miss the playoffs. Either way, it doesn't matter because the last thing that the Colts want to do is take the pie out of the oven before it's done baking, be like, oh, this isn't very good. Give it to someone else who goes home, puts it in their own oven, and then shortly after has an amazing pie. You know how frustrating that would be if the Colts gave up on Anthony Richardson too early and then we looked up and the Titans were like, hey, we'll take him. And then 2 years from now, Anthony Richardson's like one of the 6 best quarterbacks in the NFL. You know how upsetting, how upset we would all be, even the ones who keep calling Anthony Richardson a tight end? Everybody would be pissed. Everybody would be upset. Okay, the Colts have got to play Anthony Richardson to figure out whether or not he's the guy, to figure out whether or not he's going to progress to a point where he can be a franchise quarterback. They have to do it, even though it's not fun watching him only complete 54% of his passes right now. It's the reality. Every team in the NFL, well, 90% of the teams in the NFL that draft a young quarterback have to deal with the ups and downs of a young guy playing. It's just the reality of it. It takes some guys longer than others to figure it out. When they drafted Anthony Richardson, we all should have known that it was going to take him a little bit longer than Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels to get it figured out because he hasn't played that much. That's the reality that we're in, and the only way to get out of it is to continue to play Anthony Richardson to figure out if he's the guy or not. Thanks for tuning in to The Real Jonathan Smith Show. I'm on every day from 10 to noon. Head over to YouTube, Indy Sports Ticket. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Head over to IndySportsTicket.com. Buy your ticket to Bourbon and Birdies. It's going to be a blast. I know I'll be there for a little bit. We'll see how it goes from there. Thanks again for tuning into the show, The Dan Dockett Show, the best sports show in the state of Indiana, according to the Indiana Broadcasters Association. That show starts here in 5 minutes.